Congressman, thank you so much for being on the program. It's been a wild morning. There is quite a bit of mourning in Washington, D.C. on Capitol Hill right now from Democrats calling for Joe Biden to drop out of the race. What say you?
Well, we're getting a hurricane in Texas, but the political hurricane going on in Washington, D.C. is pretty strong right now. Democrats are reeling. They are in a box of their own creation. They now have to choose between a very clearly mentally incompetent president and a president who is a DEI box-checking vice president. And that's what they're stuck having to figure out. And you can see them struggling. I introduced the 25th Amendment resolution. Again, for your listeners who are very smart, they're going to know this. We can't do anything in Congress to trigger this, right? The 25th Amendment says the vice president has to trigger a debate or a question of whether the president's capable of carrying out the duties and then act. All I did was file a resolution saying is our position that it should be triggered, right? That he's very clearly not competent. And some people have raised, well, that's, politically not very smart. I said, well, look, I think President Trump will wipe the floor with either Joe Biden or Kamala Harris. But importantly, he is still the president of the United States. He still has, as you pointed out a few minutes ago, the nuclear codes. He still is the commander in chief. He still has to make decisions that affect our national security interests and well-being. And just because the Democrats are craven politically, they want to hold on to power so much that they're willing to risk and endanger the United States rather than call out the existing president for being not mentally there, whether it's Parkinson's, whether it's dementia, both. But here's the last point I'll make. We need to know, okay, who knew and when did they know it? We know Kamala Harris knew. We know Jill Biden knew. We know that the people around him in the White House knew. But I want to know what they knew. I want to know whether the Parkinson's expert has been there and for how long. I want to know when they first saw these signs. Was it before 2020? Was it over the last 3 years? What doctors have been in there? We should subpoena all of these people and all of these doctors because the Democrats have been lying to the American people because they are liars. They've been lying about the Russian hoax. They've been lying about all this stuff with what they're doing at the border, endangering Americans. They're lying about the mental state of the president. They lied about COVID. Frankly, I can't think of anything they haven't lied about over the last 4 years.
Sir, if you look at the state of the country right now, as you just elucidated, it does look like it's a country being managed by somebody who doesn't have a functional brainstem. Would you be in favor in Congress with a new Congress? And there are many positive projections for a Republican Senate, Republicans to keep the House. Would you be in favor in the new Congress in the year 2025 of having a special committee, maybe like the January 6th committee, but on the Joe Biden mental handicap committee to see who knew what when and to really put teeth to these subpoenas?
No question. I think we need to have a full airing and a probably dedicated committee, as you point out, but a very specific one that's going to do the work and produce it quickly with teeth, haul people in front of Congress to explain all of the things they have been doing. Because as I said a second ago, they have been lying. We know that. If you're remotely aware politically right now, you know that they've been lying. This thing about his mental competency has now become so explosive because that debate finally elucidated for the American people because the administration and Democrats have been hiding it from them. Most of us, we're the minority, right? We follow this stuff every day. Most people are going and taking their kids to, baseball games or soccer games. They're going to work, they're going to church, they're going to life. They don't follow this stuff every second of every day. But the truth is, those of us who've been watching, we knew he was bad, but that debate, it demonstrated he's not there. They're lying. We know it. We need hearings to expose everything that they know and they've been lying, and not just on that president's mental state, all of it.
So we've been watching some pretty devastating updates from around the world as to what happens when you have unlimited immigration, illegal immigration into your nation, and the Republicans in the House, very much at your urging and with your energy placed directly behind this, SAVE Act is attempting to, better late than never, I guess, but attempting to say you should only be allowed to vote if you are an American citizen. Now, don't ask me why this didn't happen when Republicans had a Republican House, Republican president, and Republican Senate. That seemed like the obvious time to do it in 2017. But here we are. Is this going to pass? Democrats are losing their damned minds over this, which I guess tells you the whole game here. You're from the state of Texas. Clearly, this must affect you greatly, Congressman.
Yeah, Benny, that's exactly right. I mean, and again, Democrats are giving up the game in their violent opposition to the SAVE Act. It's a bill that I introduced, I don't know, a couple months ago with the full support of the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, along with my friend Mike Lee over the Senate. We now have 104 co-sponsors in the House. I think there's something like 17 or 18 co-sponsors in the Senate. I mean, you could ask the question why all Republicans aren't co-sponsoring it, but we will have a vote on it this week. I believe it will be universally supported by Republicans. It's a very straightforward bill that says that you must provide proof of citizenship, documentary proof of citizenship, to register to vote in this country. We have a few safety valves allowing people to be able, if they show up, to cast a provisional ballot. If they showed up without the appropriate forms, then they got to come back and show it. So we're trying to make sure we're not going to step on any American citizens' right to vote when they show up. But at the end of the day, we need to do this. Now, for everybody listening out there, they're wondering, why wasn't this done before? Good question. Congress in 2017 wasn't very competent. But go farther back. The real issue is it's already illegal, right? There's already a law since 1996 that says you'd be criminally punished if you're, voting or helping somebody vote who's a non-citizen. The issue is that the way the courts have interpreted the law, they actually prevent states from being able to force and ensure that they know that only citizens are voting. So Arizona, for example, has two different systems. They check and register people, and they check their citizenship for state and local elections. But for federal elections, they don't, because the federal government is saying you can't. So it's even worse. So we're going to fix that, but we're going to go a step further. We're going to require all states to check for federal elections, not state and local, because I don't think we have the power there. But we do constitutionally have the power to say for federal elections, you must demonstrate that you're a citizen. And that one I think will be an important safeguard, and we should pass it. And everybody said, well, what, you know that the Senate won't pass it or Joe Biden won't sign it. Well, that's okay. Let's make it a political issue. And then when we're elected in November, let's show up in January and do our dang job. Let's pass it, and let's get President Trump to sign it and safeguard our elections. France is a disaster. The UK is a disaster. You've got Muslims flowing into those countries, migrants flowing into those countries. We've got to avoid all of that.
So you have some pretty powerful allies in this. Elon Musk has been tweeting about this weekend, saying because they want to cheat, saying that it's effectively traitorous to have non-citizens voting in an election. And it just boggles the mind. We looked through this Arizona lawsuit from the DOJ.
Yep.
And the DOJ sued Arizona, saying that if you ask people if they're citizens to vote in a federal election, and I'm glad you brought that up, this is in a DOJ filing, and the DOJ won, by the way, that violates their civil rights, which is untenable if people actually began to learn about how corrupt that system is and how you can have all of the safeguards you want if you let 30, 40, who knows how many million people who aren't American citizens vote in your election. You don't have I don't know what that's called. It's definitely not a democracy.
Yeah, what you're seeing right now is the confluence of a number of different forces that are finally coming to a moment where we better act now or we're going to lose it. Historically, there was enough common sense in this country that as liberal or as crazy as some people were, people generally agreed, yeah, we should make sure that only citizens vote. A lot of fraud, a lot of people that would abuse that system, a lot of people here illegally that people would try to register to vote. And so over time, you've seen now jurisdictions like DC, we had to vote on that a couple of months ago, San Francisco, Oakland, New York, other jurisdictions that are actually now affirmatively trying to register people to vote who are here either illegally or certainly are non-citizens, getting them to register to vote in state and local elections. But they wink, wink, and they go, oh, no, but trust us. We know it's already illegal federally to register people for federal elections. Well, that's all garbage, right? Virginia had to clean off their rolls last year, found 1,500 people. We've seen numerous reports where there have been impacts on elections. Al Franken notoriously won a very narrow election, and there were very clearly people who voted who were non-citizens in that election that may well have turned that election for Al Franken. It matters. So we put this forward, and then to combat what you're just talking about, where you've got these ridiculous rulings by the court as well as laws that aren't clear, we should speak with a very clear voice. This bill does that. So hopefully we'll pass it out of the House at least this week.
Something that's always made my skin crawl and left me a little on edge given this current news cycle is the very low IQ, very glassy-eyed, mouth breathing insistence by Joe Biden that he will win, right? In
Yeah.
spite of all the data, in spite of everything, I will win. Almost as though they have something already wired, and based on that kind of creepy confidence, like that strange confidence, very like Katie Hobbs versus Carrie Lake confidence in Arizona, where it's like we already have the system wired. While we're live right now, the White House has just come out and said and come out against your bill. This just happened. Executive Office of the President, Statement of Administration Policy against the SAVE Act. Chip Roy, you are listed right at the very top here. Administration strongly opposes the SAVE Act. It's already illegal for non-citizens to vote in federal elections. Federal crimes punishable by prison and fines. Now, the alleged justification for this bill is easily disproven falsehoods. Additionally, making false claims of citizenship is unlawful. So this looks like something written directly by Merrick Garland's civil rights division at the DOJ. The president has been clear he'll continue to fight to protect Americans' sacred right to vote in free, fair elections by opposing your act to make sure that only Americans vote in elections. What say you, Congressman?
Well, I'm honored. I'm honored to be in the crosshairs of the White House, a White House which is very clearly in opposition to the well-being of most Americans, right, as evidenced by their open borders and the death of Laken Riley and a bunch of Texans. This administration is not interested in safeguarding the American people's right to vote. They're not interested in safeguarding anything about, our safety and well-being. This is about political power. Nothing more, nothing less. That's what it's about for them. Your point here about his sort of glassy-eyed confidence, like they're all gleeful about what's going on in Wisconsin right now, about the restoration of these drop box, voting procedures. And these are all things they want to be able to stay in place, to be able to sort of game the system, to try to cram ballots, to try to make sure they can steal the election, if you will. And that's what we're up against. We're up against people wanting to use this in order to try to win elections. They're going to oppose this bill. We knew that. Okay, that's why I started by explaining when I said provide proof of documentary proof of citizenship. I made clear that we do allow safety valves for ensuring there'll be no undue burden, to use the Supreme Court's parlance, on a citizen's right to vote. It was purposeful. We structured it that way. We worked with smart lawyers about how to set it up. And there's no burden that's going to be placed on an actual citizen's ability to go cast a ballot. That's the truth. We're just going to make sure that we try to prevent those who are non-citizens from voting. But of course, they oppose it. They don't want any break in their current efforts to try to register people using Medicaid and all these welfare systems, which they're currently using to try to register people to vote who are non-citizens.
Yeah, it's wild. It says it's extraordinarily rare for a non-citizen to vote in a federal election. So they admit that it happens in their own statement.
Right.
They say non-citizens vote in our elections. So, like I want to let you have the last word here, Congressman. And I know then you got to hop. But isn't one illegal vote too much in any election?
Yeah, I mean, look, I share that, right? Because once you have one, you're having two, you're having five, you're having 1,000. And look, when elections can be impacted in a state election for Senate or local congressional election, right? We had we had several elections recently in primaries that were decided by 300, 400, 500 votes. Okay, we had Al Franken's, which was very narrow. You had in the presidential election in 2020, Georgia was what? 15,000, 10,000.
Yep.
You had, Pennsylvania was small, got a little bigger. Arizona was small, got a little bigger. All of those things matter. All those votes matter. And so when we're talking about the future of the country, no, it's not a break. By the way, it's just wrong. Right? Look at the actual text of the amendments to the Constitution, where it talks about safeguarding the rights of citizens to vote. The Constitution is replete with contemplating that it is only citizens who will be voting. And that's what we should be looking at in terms of protecting our rights.
If you ever want to do a nerdy study, just look at the fall of the Roman Empire, and you'll see that the erosion of what it means to be a citizen and what it means to be part of the society is how that empire, the most powerful empire in the world, fell.
And Benny, that's the most important point, and we should have a continued dialogue about that, about what's happening and trying to destroy the culture, the soul of this country, and what it means to be an American. Democrats are trying to kill that. Those of us who want to push back and take this country back, it's because we know what it means to be an American, and we want to make sure that is clear. And that is the most important debate we need to be having.
Yes, I love your tactic your tactics here. It's great. So rarely do we get actual wartime tactics from members of Congress. But yeah, make them oppose this.
Yep.
Let them go to the American people and say we oppose citizenship for voting, right?
Amen.
Like proof of citizenship. Let them do it. Good.
Yep.
Well, good on you, Congressman. Everybody go follow and support Chip Roy. He's one of the best, an absolute flamethrower, barn burner, like a Texas tornado ripping through Congress. Doesn't make a lot of friends, but we're a friend of you, Congressman. Godspeed. Call your member of Congress and make sure they support the SAVE Act.
Amen. Thanks, Benny. God bless you.